This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome back to another edition of 21 Questions, the podcast that is brought to you guys by, well, you guys, those of you that follow us, that listen to us. These questions are coming straight from the KCSN Discord that you guys dropped in there for us to answer every single week. Football, food, other sports, life, whatever you want it to be, all those questions are in there. They are as found in the KCSN Discord. If you are not a member, you can subscribe to the KCSN Substack and get an invite link to the Discord. Or if you have already subbed, make sure you check your welcome email. It is in there. But that's where all these questions come from. So if you're ever wondering, hey, how do I get my question answered about whatever it may be, you got to get in the Discord, drop the question in there, and then weekly we answer about 21 questions, sometimes more, sometimes less. We will see. But today, I am happy to be joined by Nate Taylor. You can find him at The Athletic, on Only Weird Games, and he can tell you anywhere else that he wants you to check him out at, or, meet him on the street.
I don't know. Yes, come say hello if you see me in Kansas City. Mostly, it's always a joy when people come up and say, "Hey, I recognize you," or "Hey, I appreciate this," or "Hey, I want to ask you this specific thing about X player or coach." So, it's fun. My wife probably has the radar better than I do. When she sees somebody come along, Holly's like, "Here he goes." How long is this gonna take?
They see the eyes. She sees the eyes. And look at
the eyes start darting. But no, we enjoy it. It's a great thing, and I like to say that I am adaptable to the times, Maddie Lane. So I am now on Discord, and I'm ready to be surprised by our lovely folks.
This is great. There's now 2/3 of Only Weird Games we've got in the Discord, so that's good.
Yeah.
We're doing good. We're eating away at you guys. We're bringing you in, and you get to see the fun that is that place.
Yep, I've seen it for less than 24 hours.
No, it's good. So we're going to get going right away, I think, on these. I think we got a handful of questions, and they're good. We're going to start off with some Chiefs questions, and we'll have some more fun questions on the back end. So here, this is from Grayson Jasper. Any chance that Brian Cook is safety 3 or 4 this year once the season starts, and not safety 2 playing alongside Justin Reed?
I guess because this would be in a benefit to the, meteoric rise of Chamari Connor. Is that kind of where this question sort of, leads to? Yeah, I'm trying to think, I think it'd be a lot to ask of Jaden Hicks, and Chamari Connor did have one of the more impressive rookie seasons because he was so bad in OTAs. Like this time last year, it was very clear that he was like, oh, okay, just a special teams guy that they took in the 6th round or whatever it was. But yeah, I think if Brian Cook is healthy, he probably needs to be the starting free safety because it accentuates Justin Reed's, versatility, being the strong side safety, being the guy who's more in the box. I think Chamari Connor is a fantastic third safety in a year 2 where, you just assume that there's going to be progress. But I think the only reason that would happen would be if there was a setback or the Chiefs wanted to be really cautious with Brian Cook. But, Brian Cook was, obviously I've reported, I've written in The Athletic, he was out there last week. And so that's a great sign trending towards, hey, being able to participate in full contact when you get to pads. And I just think at this point, because of the experience, because of his range, if he can come back fully healthy, he probably deserves to be the starting safety alongside Justin Reed.
Yeah, I would say so. I would agree with that. And you're looking at some turnover at the cornerback spot without L'Jarius Sneed. You're going to have new guys in there. So not only do you want to keep as much other experience on the back end as you can, but you want the guy that's probably a little bit more versatile than Chamari Connor is going to be at this point. Cook's played a few more of Steve Spagnuolo's coverages.
Yep.
You want to have that availability when you have to go back to disguising a lot of stuff. You can't just play man coverage now because you don't have L'Jarius Sneed to lock someone down. So, and the bonus is Connor might be in the slot a lot more this year. If Trent McDuffie really is going to play outside,
yes,
Connor might be in the slot. And if that's the case, yes, Tyrann Mathieu started and then kicked to the slot, but it's probably just easier to have Connor come in right away for that spot and keep Cook, on the back end where he's predominantly deep safety.
Yes. Completely.
All right. Okay, we got a question from here we got Andrew Schnicker. Do you see the Chiefs adding any more veteran free agents? If they do, which position group do you think they would most likely be looking at?
Andrew, fantastic question. It's not going to excite you. It's probably running back. Probably running back would be like the safest guess. I would say right now, the safest projection I can make. You're even seeing it now with the Jets. Like, they just signed a veteran running back. Guys are going to, kind of want to see around mandatory minicamp time, which, we're kind of approaching that here on late May, early June. Hey, I want to get a month of like looking at the playbook, talking to the coaches before obviously training camp. I don't know if Jerick McKinnon can return. I'd be all for it because he's a great personality. Obviously, he's very skilled in his, role in the Chiefs offense, but I think I'm not sure there's a splashy veteran signing. So I think the most logical is probably running back because you only have two legitimate players at that position in Isaiah Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And look, can't wait to see Reese Zammit in pads. Lewis just gets the pads, baby. And then we can really see what we have in terms of like maybe being a kickoff returner, maybe a swing guy at the position, a gadget player. But yeah, they only really have two legitimate running backs. So I would say running back is probably the most logical.
Yeah, that makes sense. I wrote about it earlier this week on the Substack. And it's just like they're looking for a running back 3, but not even realistically a running back 3. Jerick McKinnon was their backup running back. He was their RB2, yes, and that guy's not there. And so like it's easy to say Clyde can step into that role because that's a lot of what he did at LSU. We've 4 years in the NFL, and he hasn't really stepped into that role in year 4 of the NFL. So I like that Clyde's back. It gives you a safety valve. You have a floor. But it's not like he has been a stellar backup running back. It's not like he's been able to surpass McKinnon, who's also at this point still not around. So you do probably need another body. I thought it was interesting that Brett Veach had name-dropped Keontae Ingram during his presser, just how they added him late. So he didn't get he was still learning the playbook. He's a guy I have my eye on to maybe be in competition there. But again, we're talking competition. Like, that's about it. We're not talking about a guy that's any kind of lock. He's played like 50 snaps in the NFL so far in his career. So it's not like this guy is a guarantee to make it or anything along those lines. So yeah, running back makes sense. I think it's interesting the Chiefs have still been intrigued or at least mildly interested in the public's eye to veteran wide receivers. So maybe if there's a June 1st cut of somebody that intrigues them, maybe that's a position they're still interested in. But that's really about all I see right now.
Yeah, and they have, and I've said this on Only Weird Games. I'm sure you guys have said the same too. If I don't remember, correctly, like the Chiefs have a good amount of money from a salary cap standpoint. If somebody did get cut June 1st and wants to make 2/3 of their projected salary before they got cut, or at least what the market rate is at that time, if you want to spend a little bit more to ensure that that player services. So yeah. You can, I'm sure people can think of the names. I don't know if that's a question that's coming up too, but yeah, the Chiefs, at least, unlike most teams around this time of year, the Chiefs actually do have a decent amount of cap space. And of course, that's in light of the L'Jarius Sneed trade.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think we'll have a question coming up later. We can throw some names in there. I got 2 good ones here. This is from Casey Let's start with this one. Have you been able to interview any of the new Chiefs now, whether free agent or a rookie? And if so, who's been the most interesting to talk to? Maybe not even a football side of it, just who's been the most interesting or pleasant to talk to for you?
Lewis, Reese, Zammit, please be a star. Please. I haven't been this, I guess, intrigued or allured by a human being than Isaiah Pacheco. I remember the day they drafted Isaiah Pacheco, and I said, hey, he had the quote of, I'm ready to take a grown man's job. You're never going to get a better quote on draft day, ever. But I just remember him seeing himself already as a star and trying to remind myself that, like, they took him in the 7th. Like, you see, no, he's a 7th round. He's a 7th round pick. He ain't talking like a 7th round pick. And because of his professional experience overseas, in rugby, I mean, he's really fast. So, like, there are some transferable traits or some comparable traits, I should say, between Isaiah Pacheco and Louis Rees-Zammit. But, I mean, he talks about, like, the accent. I mean, how could any lady resist? And secondly, he talks about, like, being one of the boys and really learning Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And he's just so happy to have the chance to play in the NFL, which is so different from his father in the 80s, who was the first in his family to really love American football, and obviously that got handed down to Louis. So he's the one I've enjoyed talking to the most. We've had 2 kind of extended interview sessions with him. So look forward to that in training camp on theathletic.com. But yeah, he would be my favorite right now. I mean, the man went to Worlds of Fun and had a blast. I've been to Worlds of Fun in like a decade, and I have a child. So, I mean, the guy is living it up. The guy is living it up. I love Louis. I love Louis Rees-Zammit, and I so badly want him to make the 53-man roster. Mostly, you know, his best chance is obviously on special teams. But hey, if they don't have another running back, hey, just throw him at running back 3 and let him be the gadget guy, you know. But he's God, I love that dude. In an unhealthy way.
That's a good one. No, I like that one. That's a good one. I'm excited to get it, listen, see what he had to say to you guys when he sat down. I didn't got to talk to near as many guys, but we did go down to the Shrine Bowl and got to talk to a couple guys down there. So I enjoyed my time getting to talk to Carson Steele a little bit. He was pressed for time when we actually sat down. He had team meetings to get to. So he had like 8 minutes before he had to go, but he still sat down, took time to talk to us for about, 6-7 minutes and had to rush off. So that was cool. To sit down and talk to us for a little bit, and just hearing his kind of like story of going from not really highly recruited to Ball State to where he was really good, and then going into the transfer portal, trying to pick and choose where he landed and why he chose Chip Kelly at UCLA. It was good talking to him. I like when running backs specifically, because a lot of times, especially when they're younger like he is, it's a lot of athleticism, but he was talking about why Chip Kelly's offense was going to be good for him to get to the NFL, what he could learn from going there in terms of the passing game and stuff. So I like sitting to talk to Carson a little bit. Hopefully he gets to show out, because I think he's a different type of running back than a lot of the other guys that are on this roster. So he's a fun player to watch, I think, going along throughout training camp as well.
Yes, and potentially a little hybrid fullbacky, if needed, yes.
Oh, Andy's fiending to get that fullback spot back. Like, okay, fine. You won't let me have a fullback? You won't let me have a fullback, Brett? That's fine. Let me get a big running back.
Yep. With thighs for days. Yeah.
All right. Got one from Frank the Tank. And speaking of training camp, who is the player that the fan base will cling to and overhype during training camp? And okay, I want to throw my guess out there first.
Sure.
I think I got one ready, locked, loaded. It's going to be Jared Wiley. It's going to be
it's easy. Yeah.
I did the TCU. We're just wrapping in Ross, Fortson, and anybody else we can think of it in one package, and we're just going to load it up right there on a tee for everybody. And through training camp, it's going to be great. It's on, especially at the beginning when it's on air, no one's being physical. It's all passing. He's going to be looking great, and hopefully that continues. I hope it does, but he's a tight end coming from TCU that struggled with physicality some at the college level. When the NFL starts, it might take a year or two before he's ready, and that's okay. You got to prepare people for that part of it.
Nah, Matt. Nah, baby. Let's light it up. This is Travis Kelce 2.0, I will tell you, kind of to your point, early in training camp, Jared Wiley is going to moss somebody in the internet. The Chiefs Twitter is going to explode, okay? They're going to reference it in the first preseason game. I can already hear Ari and Trent Green being like, well, at camp, he mossed like 2 guys, and he really made, Justin Reed look pedestrian out there. He's the easiest favorite. I will say from a personality standpoint, if you really love defense and you're really trying to figure out, hey, I love the style that I'm not saying obviously they're the same player, but if you loved the style that L'Jarius Sneed incorporated in the Chiefs defense, right? The price of doing business for hey, I'm gonna give you 2 penalties today, but you're not getting yards. I think he's also a below the Mason-Dixie line, but Kamal Hayden, really physical, really likes to get after it. And so I think he could have some fun exchanges with the wide receivers at training camp.
Yeah, and he's flashed the ball skills at Tennessee, and like that's when you're talking about a defender, especially a cornerback at training camp that sticks out. You just need like one highlight interception or pass breakup, and then like that's setting social media ablaze. And I think he's definitely a corner on the team that can pull that off. Okay, here's one from from Major Body Odor. If Hollywood Brown maxes out all of his incentives, do you think he would be considered one of the biggest free agency steals this offseason?
Yes, because I still don't have an idea what the Atlanta Falcons are doing. They're just throwing things at the wall. The market went a little bit tricky. I'm trying to, again, there's a lot of names to consider, but who signed in Buffalo that the Chiefs were kind of in on? I can't remember. It was Curtis Samuel?
Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, Curtis Samuel. I remember telling people like, hey,
good deal.
Might want to look at Curtis Samuel's film. And then I was like, oh, Curtis Samuel made real money. Now, is he better than Hollywood Brown? That's kind of debatable. So based on, I think, and I may have said this earlier, but I think because Marquise saw that like, hey, maybe the wide receiver market won't be as stacked next year as it was this year. And I'm going to go to a team that I really want to play for. I've been through sort of a quarterback carousel of since. Not bad guys, but like Kyler Murray was hurt, and I was in the best offense with Lamar Jackson when they were trying to actually encourage him to throw the football. So I want to go to a place where I know I'll be taken care of with Patrick. Obviously, they have the the Houston connection, the Texas connection. And so you could say at some point, yes, this would be a very wise move, especially if he has 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, like a legitimate, consistent guy. Then yeah, he will raise his profile. And if that happens, then it would be a race to like December, right? Like, can the Chiefs encourage him to sign an extension so that he doesn't reach free agency? But sometimes you even have to, in those cases, sometimes you have to pay more than you normally would just because you're discouraging the player, trying to incentivize a player to not get to free agency. But yeah, he could be one of the more shrewd moves because, I mean, Calvin Ridley is good physically. Have you seen his stats? They gave him so much money. And I get it. Offensive coach, new offensive coach. Got to give him toys. What's his name good? Well, I guess we'll find out because he has Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins and,
yeah.
So compared to that deal, Calvin, is there a world where Marquise Brown could have a better season than Calvin Ridley? 100%.
Yeah. And so Calvin Ridley's stats last year, 76 receptions, just over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. That would be Marquise Brown maximizing. He would hit all of his incentives. It's 1,000 yards, 7 plus touchdowns, 60% of the snaps. All of his incentives coming in at $11 million then against the cap, right? Mm-hmm. So if he just matches Calvin Ridley's stat line last year, which would be not blowing away any of the incentives that are the Chiefs gave him, it's just kind of just going over them a little bit. And that's half the price of what Calvin Ridley is now going to make. I think it's pretty safe to say, yes, if he hits those numbers, he's definitely one of the best deals. You're getting a guy that's going to produce at a mid-level, maybe lower-end wide receiver 1, but only for $11 million, which is what wide receiver 2, 3s are making now. You look at Darnell Mooney's contract. Curtis Samuel, it was multi-year, but it was still $8 million a year. So, if you're getting a guy for, that's for $11 million, that's going to go over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, yeah, I think that would be a huge deal. I am interested if he stays healthy, if he hits the ground running in this Chiefs offense, like I think a lot of us hope and expect as possible. Mm-hmm. What are the Chiefs' long-term plans? Because the 1-year deal is a little surprising to me. I get it. It makes a lot of sense for Hollywood Brown. It saves the Chiefs from having to be strapped into a guy that's had injury history in the past, but he's a guy that you would probably like to keep around if he really clicks with Mahomes. So I am curious to see how that relationship just goes as the year wanes on.
Yeah, and you have a sample size or a similar case, I should say, with Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju Smith-Schuster was on the Chiefs' radar for 2 or 3 years. Juju kind of wanted to join the team the year before, but he obviously signed a deal with Pittsburgh to stay 1 year with them. obviously won a Super Bowl, and then that was literally the Super Bowl tax. He was like, I would love to stay. And the Chiefs were like, you're kind of physically deteriorating, but like, God, you're so good in open space. And the Patriots were like, what if we gave you $33 million guaranteed? And the Chiefs were like, it's been great. It's been a great run.
You don't care if you have a knee.
Yeah, like it's
okay.
It's been a great run, man. So
Yeah.
you don't. So the best case scenario is, hey, he helps them, win another Super Bowl. That being Marquise. The problem with that is, I would tell him take the most money because you maximized your earning potential. But again, that's why I think December and January might be really, really important if everything does sort of click fairly early on. And then lastly, Maddie, I think it's very interesting that he could make $11 million when someone was guaranteed to make $11 million last year and was ass, just certified ass until they woke him up in January and he blacked out again. I mean, so I've always, when that deal got made, I was told about it and I was like, well, what are the numbers? I was trying to confirm it all that night. And then it was like a Friday night. It came through and I was like, of course, the high end is 11 million. Of course. Well, hey, we got to make as much as that guy made. And he's actually going to produce this year, It's one of those negotiating things.
Putting it in those terms, yeah, that's something. Because, yep. I mean, it was clearly a player they were counting on to be one, very specific. It's MVS. They very clearly said, hey, we need you to at minimum be a vertical stretch guy that's reliable when we have to throw to you. It's going to be awesome if you can take another step now that there's nobody to compete with these snaps for you. And He said, nah, I'm good. And by the way, actually, am I good? Not am I good. I'm just going to go ahead and quit doing that other thing I was good at for my entire career for, 17, 18 weeks. And we'll figure it out, I guess. It's like, so yeah, like putting it in that sense, like, yeah, it's very clear. Those numbers are very specific. The Chiefs really, I think, have a number and for this type of player. Player, this is what we're willing to pay for it. And they've tried it 2 back-to-back years, like really, I guess 3 years in a row.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, MVS's first year. We'll see. Hopefully it goes more like that first year with MVS. And I think Brown's a better player. That's pretty clear. I think when you look at any stats or film, it's just, can he be as available as MVS has been throughout his career? All right. We got S. Wallaby 13. Is Kingsley Suamataia more of a George Karlaftis or Felix Anudike-Uzomah as his rookie year? And I think this just means, is he going to be out there and having an impact, or is he going to be a guy that probably needs not necessarily a redshirt year, so to speak, but a guy that's probably still learning the game a little bit more as a rookie and should be not anticipated to have an impact until year 2?
All right, I'm pretty sure I got the same information that Louis Riddick got. The Chiefs think the Chiefs think he's George Karlaftis. The Chiefs think he's capable of winning the spot. Now that's yet to be determined, of course. But the position is there for him to really compete and go win. So being optimistic without seeing pads, without seeing preseason games, the Chiefs are really, really, I don't want to say confident, but they're very eager to have, like, if that's a great question. If he could have a George Karlaftis-like rookie season, the Chiefs will have a top 5 offense. That's how good Patrick is if he has a average to above average left tackle and better weapons than he had a year ago. But in terms of footwork, in terms of athleticism, the Chiefs believe Kingsley offers better traits long-term at the position than perhaps Wanya Morris, who, when he originally entered the league, and this is not a slight to Wanya Morris, he was kind of seen as like a swing tackle guy because he had experience playing both sides in college, but he was not obviously as highly thought of as a prospect as Kingsley was, obviously a few months ago.
Yeah, and it's tricky is with like a defensive lineman, there's a rotational aspect. So whether it's Karlaftis or Felix, these guys can come in for a couple snaps here and there. Like I think probably what rubbed Chiefs fans the wrong way is they didn't need Felix to play 50% of the snaps. It's just like, hey, can you give us 10 a game and like have us call your number once in a while? And that wasn't happening. So I think that frustrated some people until you get through the year. Like, okay, that's fine. He can take, again, a redshirt developmental type year and we'll see what happens in year 2. That doesn't really work with an offensive tackle. And like, you look at Morris, like Wanya Morris last year, you didn't see anything from him from preseason up until Donovan Smith was hurt. Then he's thrust in there, and then you're having to make a snap judgment on those games. So it's a little trickier for an offensive tackle. You kind of win the job or you kind of don't. And then if you don't win the job and you get in there, it's probably, not guaranteed, but probably at a detriment to the team because the guy that they thought was better can no longer play. So we'll have to kind of play it out. I think it's good to see that they are excited for him. They're getting him in the building. They're getting him in the playbook room, in the film room. And they're like, hey, this guy coming from this air raid system at BYU where he barely took a pass set. It was almost all RPOs, but we feel like he's close. Like we feel like he's really good already based on what we're seeing. That's good to see. Like those are some of the big questions. No, there's no physicality questions. There's no questions about his athleticism. It's all, can he pick this up in time at his age coming from the system? So as long as they are confident, that's a good sign to start.
Right.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, and then we come back. We'll get through a few more of these questions here as we go.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Tucker Franklin here to tell you about PXG. And as a golfer for years, I've been hearing PXG say, nobody makes golf clubs the way they do, period. And you know what? I got to say that they're right. I went in for a fitting and I got to see firsthand for myself. I went in at the Kansas City location, swung the PXG Black Ops driver, and it is a total game changer. You no longer have to sacrifice distance for forgiveness. As a golfer, you know that is absolutely massive. And no matter the tools, getting fitted can take your game to a whole new level. And they'll even give you a dozen golf balls for free just for doing it. The world-class team of PXG experts will analyze every aspect of your swing with every club and give you feedback in real time to tell you how to improve. I got matched up with Alex. She is an absolute rock star at PXG. She got me swinging right. We fixed some swing stuff a little bit here and there, but she knows what she's talking about. She got me suited up, got the perfect driver, the perfect length, the perfect weight, everything that you need to get that less disparity, more distance in your swing. They can help you out at PXG. And if you're thinking PXG's high equipment is going to be too much money, their clubs are often cost less than the so-called leading brands, so you'll be good there. And here's what you got to do. PXG made me a believer. They'll do the same thing for every golfer in Kansas City. Visit pxg.com/21questions to schedule your fitting at PXG Kansas City. That's at 7517 West 119th Street in Overland Park. Get fitted for any club, and you'll get a dozen golf balls for free. That's pxg.com/21questions to schedule your fitting. pxg.com/21questions. Limit 1 dozen golf balls per person. Promotion ends June 30th. Other terms and conditions apply. See store for details.
Welcome back to 21 Questions. We are here at questions, let's call it 12. I'm not sure really where we're at, but roughly question 12. We are ripping through these. We got a few more Chiefs questions here, and this is Dole Tools and Casey from Casey kind of had similar questions. What players, what free agents do you think would still be available the Chiefs might be interested in? I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but we have a couple other free agent questions. Are there any names out there that you expect the Chiefs to at least have some interest in signing, and whether it's running back, wide receiver that we already talked about, or a different position altogether?
I'm gonna go on over the cap, and I'm gonna see who's still available on the wide receiver list, because that's probably the most sexy. Hunter Renfrow. Sign me up. Michael Thomas. If you wanted another Juju-esque type player, Michael Thomas could be, a nice, interesting option. As I said on Only Weird Games, McCole Hardman, you can still call him. Donovan Smith, you can still call him. They're just one call away. You would never call Randall Cobb. Stop it. Marquise. I'm sorry, that was unnecessary, but I had to do it. Julio Jones. Deep ball, jump ball guy. Man, this list gets really depressing after a while. Richie James still out there, although he just got engaged, so congratulations to him. Byron Pringle still in the league, waiting on that phone call. Yeah, guys, you're waiting on a June 6th cut, and of course the most notable of that, I believe. Let me look at Tampa Bay's cap space again.
Let's see.
Yeah. I mean, they could probably stomach. God, Chris Godwin is a 27-5 cap number this year. Yo,
it's not great for
it's not great.
That's still like just made the playoffs and is clearly gonna be competing for the AFC, like for the NFC South again. Like I think that's the tricky part.
Right.
For them is like, do they really want to get rid of a guy that's going to help them win the division while it's very winnable again and eat the money for it?
Right. Now they do get $9 million in cap relief if they do cut him post June 1. But that would be the most notable player as a potential salary cap decision in the next few days.
Running back's just as bad if you start going through it too. Like,
no, I don't want to.
You start poking around in there and like nobody jumps out. I mean, like there's a couple. There's players that have experience in the league, like a Damian Harris, Latavius Murray, veterans that have been around. That like if you go in and you're like none of these running backs that were on our practice squad or undrafted free agents are ready to step in right now. Do you consider bringing somebody like that has experience in the NFL at least?
How is Cam Akers only 35? How? He's been in the league a decade. Sorry. Hey, you want to call Kareem Hunt? Yeah, they're not going to do that.
Marlon Mack, I feel like there was rumors at once upon a time that the Chiefs were kind of interested in him when he was available or something. Like he finally played a year last year, but
that's true.
None of these guys excite you at all, right? So like the running back's no good. I think of all the names we've mentioned, I've continued to kind of bang this drum for a while. Michael Thomas makes a lot of sense to me, especially if Rashee Rice is going to miss any time because he's not you're the player after the catch that Rice is, but he gives you a guy that can win on the same type of routes and the same areas of the field. And then once Rice comes back, he's been good enough throughout his career that you don't feel like he has to play in that same slot role that Rice had been playing in a lot of his snaps. Like, and he's arguably the guy that moves the needle the most. When he's healthy, Michael Thomas can still play. The problem is he's very rarely healthy, but you just need him for what you need him for. Whatever games Rashee Rice may or may not miss this season is all we kind of be aiming for. So like he's the one guy that I think I would get mildly excited about that we've kind of mentioned that the Chiefs could bring in.
You know who I would get excited about at defensive end if you needed another body? Emmanuel Ogbah is still a free agent, and that kind of surprises me. He's only 30. He'll be 31 in November, but obviously we've seen him in the system before. And he's a very good rotational pass rusher. So it's a bit surprising that Emmanuel Ogbah is still a free agent. So that name did jump out to me as I'm looking at the list one more time.
No, that's a good one. And like another guy that kind of has that inside-outside versatility that that they like to do. So like, especially if Charles Omenihu maybe isn't, going to be as ready as early as you think, or you just want another body of that same type, that would make a lot of sense as well.
Yeah.
Here's one from Christian Gumminger. What's the Mahomes moment that has impressed you the most?
Are we talking, I saw this question on the Discord and I kind of wanted to I should have responded with can we be more specific? Are we talking about 2018? Are we talking about last year? I mean, the last year. Here's what's most impressive. Who asked the question?
Christian Gumminger.
Hey, Christian. Here's what's most impressive. He didn't choke anybody last year. He didn't physically assault a single teammate last year. That's what was most impressive. The man was throwing dimes, okay, and getting no support. Guys, I was where the press box is in Denver is that corner of the end zone on 4th and 2, where he just says, I don't want to. That's not open. The first read isn't open. You know what? I'm sick. Can I curse on here? Fuck it. Sky Moore's in a one-on-one. Ugh. And it was like the ball was floating in our same direction. So we're looking at Sky. Sky's obviously looking the opposite direction. And you see the trajectory of the ball and you're like, oh my, midair, I'm like, oh my God, it's 4th and 2. And he was kind of scrambling there in the middle of the pocket. And all of a sudden it's a gorgeous ball. And yes, I understand the defender kind of freaked out because I would too, and just started grabbing anything. So yes, there's a slight grab of Sky Moore's jersey, but you can't place the ball any fucking better. And Sky Moore dropped it. And I just said, take him out of the game. Take him out. He's going to kill somebody. He's going to kill. Someone got him sick, and he's going to kill somebody because he's finally going to lose to the Denver Broncos. And then, like, the MBS thing happened, and the ref thing happened, the Kadarius Toney thing. I mean, he probably got the closest to choking Kadarius Toney, if I want to be honest with our audience. But he didn't do it, and that's really impressive. That's a great teammate. It's a great leader.
Man.
He did, like, guys, there have been NBA seasons where people have physically assaulted teammates for doing less than what Patrick's teammates did to him last year, and they won the Super Bowl. So that's
not Draymond.
You're right. I mean, we don't see Steph Curry punching people, but you know what? We don't really see anybody punching teammates during the actual season. Now, Travis Kelce did punch a couple of guys at training camp. It was hilarious. But, yeah, just the best part of it was just like, nah, man. Like, that was most impressive. Was that, like, he actually kind of lost his mind on Christmas Day and then was flawless from that moment on and didn't choke anybody and kind of kept his teammates motivated in a sense. That was really impressive last year because that has nothing to do with physical talent. Oh, yeah.
No, that's a great one. I mean, like, because we all would have countless, physical throws, plays, runs, whatever it may be. And I think it's the mentality, the attitude, whatever you want to call it, that probably does it. I think last year's a great example. And eventually, years down the line, you might start hearing stories on somebody that has a podcast or somebody that gets into media or something that can tell a lot about like, what was going on. What was going on there? Because, like, I have a feeling, and I didn't
it's right too, Matt.
Feeling there was just a lot going on.
He wanted to kill people.
Oh man, and like who has to be the one to calm him down every single time? Like Andy's playing a part, but like Andy probably is frustrated too. That's not a guy that wants to watch what was happening without getting frustrated. It's like I can't wait to hear some of those things.
I can give you that answer. His name is Matt Nagy. He was also going through it last year. Matt Nagy was like, my God. I mean, Pat, I know, Pat. I know. I'm calling good plays. Like, we're drawing it up. Like, I know. But, like, Matt Nagy was doing, like, therapy sessions. He'll probably never admit it, but, like, I'm like, supremely confident that Matt Nagy was doing more than coaching last year than like the traditional coach that you think of.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, yeah, and I can't wait for that. Another one this is more of a jokey one. The fact that he gets ripped on social media for having a dad bod in the locker room, and then we go into the offseason and Lamar Jackson's losing weight, Shua's losing weight, all these quarterbacks losing weight, and then here comes Pat. Coors bodied it all back to OTAs, just rolling it. I mean, I don't care. It's not a big deal whatsoever.
Really
it doesn't matter. But I just think it's hilarious that, like, all of social media is clowning the best player in the league for having like very dad bod, and then he just comes back even more dad bodded up for the next season after getting the 2P. It was just funny. Like he doesn't care. That's great. I enjoyed that. We got one from Craig Stout. Favorite coach or assistant to listen to or, ask questions to at a press conference, and why?
Dave Merritt, because he has the freedom to be extremely honest. Obviously, he's developed one defensive back after another. It's kind of an amazing streak. I'm going to give a shout out to my buddy Seth Kaiser, who in the last episode of Only Weird Games, admonished and mocked the San Francisco 49ers for wanting to interview this man in Indianapolis and saying, we don't want to hire him. It was just kind of Rooney Rule-ish. And also like, how'd you beat us again? And like, it's like, how'd you guys cover us? We would like to know. But Dave Merritt probably should be a defensive coordinator. But he's not. And he's a great DBs coach. And he's just really enjoyable to talk to. And it's just very honest. And I think he really listens to the questions we ask him and is not afraid to like pivot to like his own agenda, just to be very like, okay, I've heard your question. I'm systematically thinking it in my mind and I'm going to give you a real thorough answer. And I always appreciate that from anybody, doing this line of work. And so, yeah, if you have a chance to listen to Dave Merritt interviews, please do, because you do learn quite a bit. And the same way he coaches the guys, I think, is what translates and comes through from his personality with us.
Yeah, my favorite coaches are the ones that when they're in their first year for Andy Reid because they accidentally let a little too much go. And then after that first year, you can tell they got that talking to, and it's real tight. The only guy, I mean, Merritt's still good, like, he balances the line, but like you said, it kind of becomes like his own thing versus necessarily giving away anything.
Right.
Spagnuolo, to me, he clearly still has a little bit more like freedom to do what he wants. Like he's not giving away trade secrets, but he also talks pretty openly because that's a trust that him and Andy have. So I do enjoy getting to hear from him because you actually can pick up on stuff that translates directly to the football field. It's kind of fun. Like I think back, like even Brandon Daly coming from the Patriots, that first year, he was a little bit more open.
He was incredible.
Matt House, very open that first year. And then like you can tell how quickly that stuff tightened up. So,
I told him what?
It's that first year coach is always my favorite one. So like Colin, now I expect to be super zipped up the rest of the time that he's here and stuff like that. I still like Spags. He's always a fun listen. All right, we got one more Chiefs question. We're gonna get to some fun ones after this. There's another one from KC. Which defensive player has kind of impressed you the most during the last little OTA stretch? OTA is hard for defenders to look particularly good most of the time. They're just kind of out there moving. Who jumps out? Any defender that kind of like, oh yeah, that guy really looks the part that you saw?
It's a very good question. It's hard because they don't have a ton of draft picks either. Like Jaden Hicks looks like a rookie, kids, which is not a bad thing. It's just he looks like a rookie trying to play safety in Spagnuolo system. Good luck, son. Just ask Shamari Connor how that went last year. It was doing horrible. I said Hayden would be someone that you could sort of latch onto in terms of fun, personality wise, like, ready to get in the muck, in press man coverage. But there was a couple times where he guarded Hollywood and was like, oh, this is an NFL receiver. Yeah. And this ain't the SEC no more. So for defensive players, it's really hard to jump out. They didn't really sign anybody that was noteworthy from a defensive line standpoint.
Especially for OTAs. You bring in even linebackers, even like Curtis Jacobs, super athlete. There's going to be some fun plays he's going to make during the offseason, but it's a linebacker playing in a passing camp, and time you have to think.
It's a wrap, right? And you're going to get some Mahomes. I mean,
right.
And, I'll give a quick shout out. Like Carson Wentz looked pretty when Carson Wentz
let's go
knew what he was doing, was in tempo, was in rhythm. Ball comes out really. I'm like, oh, yeah, and that arm can take you a lot of places, son. Carson Wentz will be in the league another 10 years if he can stay relatively healthy because his arm is just really nice. So yeah, it's hard to say right now who's been a jump out defender. I don't have one, sadly. Sorry, guys.
No, that's good. Christian asked, okay, here's one. What current NBA player under 30 would you like to cover as a beat writer? And kind of a pairing with that, which NBA franchise would you, if you were done with the Chiefs, which NBA franchise would you like to cover on their beat?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I love the association. It's my first experience as a professional sports writer. I covered the New York Knicks on the tail end of the Linsanity run and the Carmelo Anthony-esque. They won 50 games one year and then got beat by Paul George and the Indiana Pacers, and it was a bit surprising at the time. Then you realize, oh, Paul George is like a Hall of Fame player. So that was like his kind of coming out party.
You thought Paul George was like, I thought he was like on the peak. I thought he peaked 7 years ago, and I thought he was about ready to go off into a good role player.
Yes.
Good teams. And somehow now we're still talking about him now as like, oh yeah, teams want to offer him the max still. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, sure.
It'll be crazy. I think the under 30 player I would want to cover the most is Anthony Edwards, because he's really unfiltered. He told Karl Anthony Towns to stop fucking fouling during a press conference, and I said, I salute you. So he really tells you how he feels. He's obviously exciting to watch. Shout out to Pablo Prigioni. He was a point guard for the Knicks when I covered them in 2013. He's now an assistant coach for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So they would be very high on my list. Pablo Prigioni, by the way, Maddie, is the only person in that photo of Anthony Edwards dunking in Game 3 where he goes, "Oh shit, it's about to happen." He's the only one in the photos like, "Oh God, worlds are gonna, someone's gonna get destroyed." That poor guy from the Mavericks.
Everybody else is like, "There's no way. He's too far away. There's no chance.
There's no chance." And Pablo's in like the quarter. He's just like in the little, Timberwolves zip up going, "Oh God." So shout out to him. The team I want to cover the most was probably the team I most recently covered, just because I enjoy the community. I loved living there. Is the Indiana Pacers. A very fun team. I covered Miles Turner when he was a rookie. He's still on the Indiana Pacers. So he's like the last holdover of that team that I covered and got to know a decent amount. And yeah, I just think Tyrese Halliburton's cool. Who knew Rick Carlisle still had a lot of angry old man in him, but he does. Obviously they've sort of rebuilt themselves as a contender in the Eastern Conference. But yeah, I loved covering the Pacers. They were a very fun team, kind of mid-tier, mid-market, Midwestern team. I would enjoy them. But yeah, them, Timberwolves. It'd be nice. I hate Orlando, but it would be nice to cover the Orlando Magic because I think they're also up-and-coming teams are really exciting versus like established teams. Like those are stressful years, not only for the beat reporters, the players, everybody. But yeah, the NBA is, by the way, has better access to the NFL. So yeah, it was a great job, and then I gave it up to move home. So it all worked out. But I'm just saying. God, to cover Anthony Edwards every day would be fun because I've done it with Carmelo, I've done it with Paul George. So yeah, I know what that's like. Even though the travel is a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Edwards, I think, is like the clear answer. He's not only is he very good and still getting better. 22, it's young. He's staying there, and the content you are going to get is through the roof, and that's what makes him the perfect one. And for that reason, the Timberwolves be on that beat right now as they're still sitting. There's parts of that team that are definitely not well run and things that you probably don't want to be a part of. But I think that would be one of the ones. I think the Magic were another good one, even though I'm with you on the Orlando aspect. So I am not as deep into the organizations, like how each one's run like that or anything in the NBA. So I'm more pick and choosing from teams that I just kind of enjoy watching, like the players. Yeah. Ant Edwards, the Timberwolves. Getting to cover the Mavericks and Luka day in, day out, all their games would be so much fun because he's so good. But I just don't know if that would be as fun as some others. Right now, I love. Maybe Derek Lively's making a lot of fun too, but I just don't know if there'd be quite as fun to cover as some others. But man, when I got to watch Luka play just in person the one time we watched him play at the Magic when we were down in Dallas, and that was amazing. Just seeing what he can do at his best it's something else. So they're on my list.
Trying to guard, I mean, this is why they made the trade, obviously, and it obviously has worked. But trying to guard him and Kyrie, I mean, in closing minutes, this is insane.
It doesn't matter what you do. There's no answer.
I'm like, well, that's great defense, and it just went in again. Well, what are you gonna do? Yeah. So that would be a fun team. I hadn't thought of them, but yeah, Mark Cuban from an ownership aspect, Jason Kidd, obviously a great player in his day. That would be a very fun team to cover.
Eventually get to hang out and talk to Dirk, which would always be fun. He's back all the time. That'd be a good time. All right, here's one from Neil. The strangest food you've ever eaten, where was it, and did you enjoy it?
No. I will never forget this. Holly and I lived in... So this is what I covered the Knicks. This is summertime. This is after the season, obviously. Holly ran I can't remember if it was a 5K or a half marathon. I think we were in Queens. Yeah, we were in Queens. It gets tricky in Queens. So we were in Queens. Holly was like, hey, obviously, I'm hungry. I just ran this 5K or half marathon, whichever one it is. I know that there's obviously difference. I can't remember. But, she gets her medal. I obviously cheered, did my thing, didn't run in it because, why? This is when Holly was building up to run the New York City marathon. So, all credit to her. But I was like, I'm not doing this. So let's get, I think it was Malaysian food. And I was like, I was like, oh, okay. All right. That ain't the same shrimp I eat. Well, what, the whole shrimp? Yeah, we just drop the whole shrimp in that thing, in that grease. There you go. I don't want to, I think Americans, we get too babied, and I realized I was a baby in that moment. I was like, I don't want to see the animal I'm about to consume's eyeballs look at me as I'm about to eat it. So it was very reminiscent of like the Christmas Story when they bring the duck out and they go, and the mom goes, well, and he's like, oh, okay. Yeah. He just chops the duck's neck off, and you're like, whoa. So I mean, we had a lot of bread. We had a lot of great Malaysian style bread, but the shrimp were, this ain't no Red Lobster, my happy. And so it's just something we've never forgotten, where it's just like, well, I'm always willing to try new cuisine, but yeah, I was not ready for Malaysia. I was not.
Yeah, and that's I love trying new foods from like different places. It's one of my favorite things. And if I go with somebody that is like well versed in that kind of food, I will let them pick out whatever they want to eat. And every time, it usually goes very well.
Right.
Every now and then it backfires a little bit. And like, listen, I like to eat different foods. I'm very picky about the things that I like, but I will try anything. And so we went and had Korean food, and we got some kind of grilled beef tongue thing. And I, have heard it's not, but people like it. People really like it. And I don't know if this was,
I've never had beef tongue.
Didn't know if I didn't like how this was cooked. Didn't know anything about it. I tried it. Was not a particularly big fan. It was a little too chewy for me. Wasn't my favorite. And it's just the texture and the taste combination of having to chew it and tasting it for the first time all together was not for me. It's probably going to stop me from eating beef tongue again, even though I swear some people love it. Like, people have always told me, like, yeah, it's one thing I couldn't get on board with, so we're probably out on beef tongue for the foreseeable future for pretty much that reason. But hey, if you like it, I'm happy for you, because I hear it's delicious. I just was not for me.
Right. Yeah, I could completely understand.
Okay, I got one for me from Andrew here. As a fellow Chiefs fan living in North Carolina, do I have any allegiance to any North Carolina teams, colleges? I asked about the hockey team here. No, not really. No. Besides the Chiefs, and I mean the Royals, I still want them to do well, but I don't follow baseball. It's not a sport that I'm overly interested in besides going to games. But besides the Chiefs, none of the teams I root for are like regional based. Realistically, the only team I have like a commitment to is the Chiefs. Everything else for other sports is all players. I just root for players. So the teams that I root for on a year-to-year basis can change in college, football, basketball, whatever it may be. So no real allegiance. Out of the teams out here, I do want North Carolina to do the best. I always like the teal blue. Always a fan. Even as a kid, I remember having like a pair of North Carolina basketball shorts when I was like 8 years old. I was like, oh yeah, this color's the coolest color in the world. So like that always still resonates with me. But no, that's about the only one out here is like, hey, North Carolina, I hope they do good, but I'm not going to be upset when they lose or anything. I think we had some other fun ones in here. Okay, this one came from Grayson Jasper. What's your favorite Papa John's pizza? Grayson said that he, I think, first met you at a Papa John's at one point in time. So he asked your favorite Papa John's pizza.
Didn't they have like some shakaroni where it was just like pepperoni everywhere, and they slapped Shaquille O'Neal's face on it or name on it? My boy ate it up, man. Obviously, I have my son's 8. We ordered a lot of, because like, what's funny is like, well, how do you become a Papa John's fan? How do you become a Domino's fan? Pizza, It's just like, sometimes your kids just sort of force you into these lanes. The
garlic sauce, though.
Yes, and then Holly likes that. The cheesy sticks, I can obviously do some cinnamon pull-aparts. I mean, that's where they got me. I was like, well, we can stay here. They got cinnamon pull-aparts. I mean, this is unhealthy, but I'll eat it. But yeah, I remember Grayson, and it's a lot of fun. We don't order it as much, but when the babysitter comes through, it's like, hey, they know where we're gonna call. They know who we're gonna call. But I think like the shakaroni, I'm trying to remember if like just a mountain of pepperoni. My son loves pepperoni.
Sounds right.
So it's I can Google it, but I'm pretty confident that's what it was at the time. But yeah, I think just an inordinate amount of pepperoni with their pizza and their sauce is pretty good.
All right, final question here. On the KC Laboratory, we do one of this most beloved thing every single year, where we grade the Chiefs' position groups on a food scale. And on this food scale, we list out Kansas City local establishments of a certain type of food and rank the position groups in the spot. So this year we're doing Italian food. It's going great. People love it. Everybody understands it perfectly.
Interesting.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Last year we did the cheeseburger scale. And so this is what we did. The lowest tier was McDonald's, I think.
Obviously.
Self-explanatory.
Yep.
And then I believe we did Whataburger was next. And like McDonald's, bad, not good enough. Whataburger, it's fine. It'll do in passing.
Yep.
You want to do better, but it's fine. Then I think that the next was Westport Flea Market, which is very, very good. Not elite, but very, very good.
Haven't been there in a while. Yeah.
Town Topic was number one. Now, Town Topic was number one because Andy said it was number one. So we had to honor Big Red for that. But the question is, what would your selections be for the cheeseburgers? So if you had to, give 4 cheeseburger places in Kansas City, how would you rate, just like roughly in that general scale?
Yeah. Again, this is very kid driven. Whataburgers at 4. I got to be honest, guys. I mean, I'll go with Andy. It is a classic. It is an established place. It is very Kansas City. So, like, obviously, Town Topic is going to be number 1. Whataburger's 4. I really like Five Guys. Five Guys is my jam. When do you eat peanuts, Nate? Only at ballparks and at Five Guys. Those are the only location.
I don't even know where else you get peanuts with a shell.
It's like, where do you locations? It's like, hey, you want a hot dog and some peanuts? Cool. Hey, you can just have as many as you want. So I would say Five Guys is probably 3. What would be 2? We do a lot of Shake Shack.
So for us, the thing for me was I had Tay's Burger Shack last time, or a couple, like right before I made the scale back in Kansas City. And I probably would have put that at number 1 or Westport Flea Market at number 1. I like Town Topic. It just wasn't my top choice, but that was Andy's, so we had to honor him. But like,
yeah, I've obviously grown up with it all my life. Yeah.
Tay's was in there. What are some? I can't remember some of the other ones that people brought up. We had people brought them up, but yeah, we like to do that every year, and so people are just always curious and 21 questions to ask about it. I like Five Guys in there. Five Guys we tried to put Five Guys in when we did it, but it was the problem we ran into is it can't be 3 because it's better than good enough, but wasn't
really good. Yeah,
right. But wasn't able to get above like the flea market. So
yeah,
but yeah, we do that year by year. So it's nice to get you in there. Whataburger at the bottom. Woo. Gonna have some Mahomes fans upset with you.
It's fine. Here's how I will help people with Whataburger, and I think Patrick even told me this. So I guess he needs to get the credit. Don't eat on their buns. Stop it. When you go there, ask for them to put your burger on Texas toast. It will immediately upgrade the experience, because I think their Texas toast to bun gap is pretty Grand Canyon-esque. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were about to tell me to bring my own buns to Whataburger. Like, we have a pot. That's my pot.
I mean, it's not what we grew up on. I get it, but like, McDonald's has better buns than Whataburger. Let's be honest. And Texas toast, redeems them, literally. And then, I think. What's the other thing I was going to say? Holly hates the Dr. Pepper shake, but Hayden loves it. So as long as they keep selling them Dr. Pepper shakes, we will be there every couple times a month. Because get a nice double cheeseburger, little bacon on Texas toast, whatever else you want, and then a Dr. Pepper shake. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. This is the American dream right here.
Oh, no, that's perfect. There you go. Got some tips for Whataburger for anybody else that is struggling with it. Got to get yourself a Dr. Pepper shake and some Texas toast. Bring your own buns if you're not a Texas toast fan.
Pretty much bring your own buns if you're not going to do Texas toast.
BYOB. It's just change it up a little bit, all right? Thank you, Nate. Thank you guys for asking us questions. We appreciate it. That was 21 questions. again, if you want to ask questions next week, make sure you hop into KCSN Discord after subscribing to the KCSN Substack. Thank you guys. We appreciate it. And we'll catch you guys next week.